museum director he got these authentic things, including old cans. But I understand, of course, they don't have any contents. And when they were kids, you always ask them, what do they have contents? Because it is old. And they also have taken off the real labels of any that are really old and valuable. And they have those in the archives. And they had a copy. I'm the docent. My name's Natalie Meyer, and I'm the docent, and we have 3 other docents. So if you have any questions, they have questions. I don't have.
Walk us through, or
I will walk you through if you'd like to. Okay, so we're going to go around here. We all know that that was built for the space, and it was built by a man who had no legs. He had these little stumps, and he had at least 2 young children who were very good. And I think one, Jay Knox third, or no, better than I. But I was told that because it was built for the space and it was so heavy, the lawyer didn't take it and he took the table. It was so heavy and big to move, but it did get put in here, and it was supposedly, I think, sort of a surprise for Mr. Corbett, who thought he was ordering flour by this man. Now, I have been told, read it in the history book, that the man was sitting on the street here, selling newspapers. J. Knox Corbett asked him if he would like to, Mr. Corbett asked him if he would like a job. And he gave him a job. And I read in one source that he even worked at the post office some of the time. Mr. Corbett was the postmaster. I don't know if everybody knew that. And in one book he quoted as saying that when he quit being postmaster, some customer asked him why he was giving up such a good job. You know, because they thought he owned the post office. He got all the money for the stamps and things. Okay, then there's another story about Hyde Corbett that he didn't want to have. He was happy to have, according to this thing I read, he said to Mr. Drackman, Roy Drackman, that it should be named the Emmanuel Drackman seal, because Drackman had worked hard to get the spring training here. Tucson wouldn't be as big as it is if we didn't have Hughes come here, and a lot of these people were instrumental in getting Hughes to come here with the aircraft company, and spring training, because with spring training, you got all those people from the Midwest coming down here watching spring training games, and then they would come back here and stay in at least part of the winter. So it was very important for Tucson. And so your whole family, a whole bunch of them, first 2 women, and Sam Hughes and Mr. Corbett are certainly wonderful people. And all of you, just think of all of you, and they say there are many, many more even, right? So now let's walk around here. We can't go on here, so why don't you just go in that way? And we can only take about 10 or 12 at a time. So the rest of you can just stand or look around at things, but don't stand on the carpet. I'm the only one that walks around. Okay, now look at this. Now look at this. I've been told that this wood didn't have to be changed. This wood is redone and stuff. This is the original wood, I've been told. And this is the butler's pantry.
and when was it built?
They moved in July of 1907. Okay. Bob's here, so you can just hang out and listen to Bob. Look at the high ceilings. Now that's something that a lot of of sorts, because I went around it and they had a porch, but it was sure a big one. Because look at this kitchen. Now Bob's going to talk to you, and I'm going to go in the other room and talk to the other people. Okay? Is that all right with you?
Sure.
Unless you want to.
Talk about it, I'll be happy to.
Well, I will if you want to. You want to go there and talk to them about the living room? Or what do you want to do? Whatever you want to do. Tell me. Okay. If you stay in the kitchen, you're going to have to do something. Okay, now this stove was found out. I think a lot of stuff came from Gearson, whatever it is, down on Stone or towel part down in there, and it was redone, but we can't touch it. It is. And this is something that was unusual. This is a warming oven, but this wasn't there. This is something that the museum found, and they redid. And the man that does a lot of the wall painting when we have shows, he does painting of the walls, and he also is an artist that has done a lot of artwork. And he looked at a little thing and did that supposedly. I saw it before they had it finished. It was a mess. And so that's why I know at least that it's true that they redid it. They had to put water here. Now whether that's what was, if it was there. Do you think they had a water here? Now, I gotta ask you.
Not that tight.
I don't know, and so that's just there. I never tell them it was there.
Because you had,
Yeah.
if they did,
And it would
they
have to
had,
be heat.
that came, the heat came off the stove, they heated.
See, even in Minnesota, we didn't have the water. Here we needed them. We didn't have a water heat. We had something that heated from the burner, which back on hole is wood. We had.
Well, in New Orleans, they had the big cupboard.
Yeah, and see, they could have had water storage out there. They had a lot of different things.
The water was circulated through like
Okay,
that.
now this, how about it, do you think they really, if they, I'm not sure when electricity came to town, but we got electricity before even Chicago supposedly because we were smaller.
Yes, but they did cut one.
Oh, that's
It
why,
wasn't until
but this
the 1930s or so.
that they had them
GE
because,
came out with the refrigerator with the coil on.
because see, I was born in 1930.
Right, yeah.
And we had a refrigerator from the time I was old enough to know, but I was born in 33, so that's why. Now this one is big because it's a kind of industrial size. But this would be like what they had. And one time I think, I read someplace that Mr. Corbett owned stock in the ice company. Now you could make money with the ice selling ice. So I don't know if he really did or not, but he might have been a chairman, been on a board or something of it. Because you can be on a board of things without owning a lot, just being kind of an important person. But anyway, the one lady goes and tells about bringing ice to California, and half of it melted by the time it got here. Because just think about having to bring ice to Tucson. And until before they got ice makers, so whoever developed the first ice makers made them. Okay, and they had what's called in the literature cooling tower in the basement. They had some kind of cooling system, which is not everybody had. So, and then the covers are what was here, and they've been redone. And look at the cans. I don't have my gloves on, but I'll take this little thing. I want to ask you what you think this was. When you go in here, look at that.
It's a nice box to put the ice in.
Yeah, you put the ice in, or whatever, and then we put it in from the other side. And see it, and then they wouldn't come inside. And it would also, if you were ice, they keep it cold. But the gas, what they think it is, they can never figure it out. They do say that once in a while. They say the thing that brings things up and down is where they go. Yeah. And then just also they did the grandmas where they had a place. So they guess that, but they never guess this. Okay, so all these things, gas is collected, and all these cans.
Yeah, tons.
They look like the cold have been taken. They're not the original labels, they've been copied, because they have the originals in the archives. I remember having cupboards like that in those closures in Minnesota.
The ones at the very top.
Okay, now I have a question to ask you. Do you think, have you been told by anybody if the bathroom tile was ever really black and white? Have you been to the bathroom at all? No. Just being from Minnesota and growing up in about, say general time maybe, that it just didn't seem like I ever saw a black and white bathroom. But maybe, anyway, it's beautiful. And the tub wasn't there. They got the tub down on the south side of town someplace, and they redid it for finishing of the tub. And the little shower thing isn't there either. And I don't know exactly what it was like. Okay, that's not what the breaks about bathrooms. court upstairs. Nobody can go upstairs anymore. But it was never finished. I've been up there. And then they had the cooks and the another servant quarters out there, and they had other buildings out there. You wouldn't know more about that. And we can't go this way to the living room. Did you look at the pottery and things? Now that's not their pottery, but they probably get the Tiffany things, and they also like the silver, I understand, that they got from Mrs. Stevens. That's what I was told. So I don't know if that's true. And the table was taken by the lawyer who owned it last, and I guess they took it away from him by eminent domain. There was a lawyer here, and he took the table and chairs. So they found a table that was similar.
A lawyer who owned the house.
Yeah, his last name started with a B. Now this is a lamp they found in this general area of town. And I think that's unusual. But that's
Is that a Tiffany?
no, I don't think so. That's Tiffany, and then I think we have another. It's not out right now. But then at least one mason is the other two are big cars. But there is a Tiffany style lamp anyway that was out in the hallway. You can't walk past. Okay.
Would you mind telling me who you are?
Winston.
I'm Chuck Stratton. Are you part of the Hughes family reunion?
Okay, where's Bob?
No. Daughter is the wife of Knox Corbett before.
Oh, I see. Excellent. Thank you. I don't know where our guide went.
Okay. We're going to have to go in small groups. And have you been in? How many of you have been in the bedroom area already and looked at that? Okay, now that bed is supposedly, according to a man who owns the arts and crafts store, a kitty corner across from St. Philip's Plaza on that corner. He said that it's probably one of two beds that like it, and it was probably made in Scotland. And that it's not very big, but it is an arts and crafts thing. Now, Mr. Yasmin was terribly enamored with arts and crafts. So we have all these things that are arts and crafts, and a few things that would have really belonged to the Corbett. Over there is, I think it's over there, we have a trophy that Gooley won for playing golf. Now Hiram also won something playing golf. And I don't think, we don't have that, but that says her name on that. And Gooley won that. And they were golfers. Okay, so now if you want to take someone into the bedroom, okay? I don't know where Bob is. So some of this way, a bedroom with her, and the rest of you kind of talk about how is that upstairs? No, we don't. Nothing's upstairs.
Recorder, yeah, would you?
And then up here, it's not can't get up there now. Then we get 4.
Is that a video? That's really nice.
Very convenient. Corbett gets in here.
This is the bed Daddy was talking about, and it is an arts and crafts bed, and if you notice it has a stained glass
Grand Canyon. And we don't have the author, the artist on that one.
How old is this spread? The cover.
It's, I don't have the exact date on how old it is, but it's of the arts and crafts movement. It's of that era, so.
Was it here in the corporate home then?
No, not when the Corbetts lived here, no. They had a different style entirely. But everything that's in here now is of the arts and crafts era. And
When did that take place?
arts and crafts, the first two decades of the 19th century. You know, during the 1800s, they went to factory works, and people were discouraged with the furniture that's coming out of the factory, not only because they didn't like the style, but the conditions, the working conditions were so poor. So that's when they went back to the arts and crafts, when handcrafted furniture then was realized to be the more beautiful.
Where did the children live? I sleep, I mean.
Well, there's 2 bedrooms and a bath. Well, when you go down this hall, there's two more bedrooms and a bath down
Oh,
there. One on this floor, yeah. One was highs and one was lows. Okay. Yeah, there's a bathroom in between. And those 3 rooms are not open to the public, but they are, not quite as large as this one, but similar. Similar size. And if you look in the closet, you'll see some of the clothes. Of course, these were not worn by the Corbetts. And also, this light fixture is one of the only original light fixtures in this house. And it gets a lot of natural lighting because there's a window right there. And the light comes in from the bathroom through that window, so you don't really need a light in there all during the day at all. Taken out of homes of that era and refinished, and the faucets and everything were refurbished and redone. And the medicine chest is filled with medicines that they used in those years.
So that's good heat powder.
Yeah, right. Those were.
You need to get some of that medicine in here closely.
Listen to it.
What would they use the Mexican heat powder for?
In this shower, they took this out of a home that was being destroyed and had it all refinished, but it was used during the early 19th century. And so it has all been refinished. So you can see the big window here, and that's what brings the light into the closet. And if you want to go down the hallway, you can see the
Yeah. Pretty cool.
video camera.
I don't know where are you.
Oh, sure.
But that's not free.
And she said the 50th anniversary picture, the back row on the last three, the track vehicles. They were very abused her family. Negated the marriage. Diva. This doesn't even look bad.
Those and I have in my
Hi, I'm Ruth.
Yeah, I'm
Well, so did I. Yes, 6 years.
Anyway, so it's interesting. She said that's Agnes.
Octanus is on the left.
She's on the left.
Lizzie is
Get through here.
Julie
get
Corbett Bell. Her daughter Nina Aperton Cooper.
he's still doing things to us, you know, he's
Yes.
gonna park any place, he's gonna start digging up the street.
But that's why the house looks so different, because they had to take
Ruth,
Yes?
could you repeat the names of
here,
Yes, please.
Atanasia, Santa Cruz Hughes, Isabel Hughes, Corbett. In the back is Yulie, Elizabeth, Corbett, Bell, Cooper. No, sorry, Caperton Bell. Then Yulita is her daughter, and she was Yulita Caperton Cooper. There are too many C's. That's the problem with this. And then this is William Corbett Bell in the lower right.
And who are his parents?
Yulie,
So that's 5 generations in one picture?
four. Atanasia, Lizzie, and then Yulie, and then Yulita and Bill were half brother, half sister.
Oh, okay.
They had different fathers. And Yulie was a championship golfer.
Had the trophies around there.
And then High was too. And so was Knox. And so it runs in the family. And Knoxie, who took you on the tour, is still playing.
Ruth, over here, I've got a silver chalice, a golf, one of the golf clubs here. Mary Hughes Bell Dietrich won
Yes.
something in 1912.
That's
She won
Aunt
something
Mary.
in
That's
1912.
the youngest
The youngest girl.
Hughes, who was born the same year as my father, 1886. Yes.
Yeah.
No, not Petaluma. She lived in
Burlingame.
and was a wonderful pianist.
Yeah.
She was sent to
Beautiful piano.
musical college in Tennessee. And she and Aunt Jessie
Addie.
and Addie
They're like
could be.
inseparable.
All went to Belmont. Belmont was the name of the college
In Tennessee.
in
Wow.
Tennessee. Because they were very musical indeed.
There was a Bell girl here, one of the days
Yeah, I'll stay here with Ruth.
we used to have.
Want me to go somewhere?
We'll find something else. Thank you.
Oh, there was
This girl went so. Who is it?
that nice one. I'm glad she was
It
here.
was very nice.
Ruth, is there something you can tell us about this other room over here?
That was
Why
the
don't you take
master
us-
bedroom.
Why don't you take us in there and tell us what you can tell us about that? Chuck is going to tape, we're taping all
Well, I'll
this.
tell you, it was an easy room to escape from because it was my bedroom and I used to go out the window.
First floor,
Well, I can tell it now, right?
Right.
Now the truth comes out. And I love this closet.
Isn't that great?
Don't you love that closet?
People die for something like this.
I know. And see, it had rods when I lived in this room. But I just thought that was a marvelous closet. There were 2 4-poster mahogany beds in here, the same color as the door, and then a sewing machine. Yes, but grandmother Corbett didn't sew, but she had a little Mexican girl who came in and sewed. And so this was the master bedroom, and that's Lizzie with, I guess with Hiram, but that's my grandmother.
Oh, wow.
I just hollered into your machine.
I was sticking it in your face.
And we certainly didn't have air conditioning. No. They had a funny plant downstairs that ran water through it, and they blew air over it, and it was sort of early day, swamp cooler. And so but it stayed quite light. It really did. It was nice. And grandmother Corbett was a painter. I know I gave her a painting in the dining room that she had done.
Corbett is
Lizzie. Lizzie.
which is one of the daughters.
Lizzie. She was the oldest of the Hughes girls. Isabel was her given name in the Bible, the family Bible. But she was always called Lizzie.
And this bathroom, is this,
This was their master bath, and it was changed because my dad had a shower put in the corner because they both had to sit on stools to, take their baths. And so there was a little shower added. They could not step into the tub.
so is this not, this is original tile or not? The black and white, is that original?
No, I think so. I think so. That's the original toilet seat. But I think these are replacements.
Yes, they said that those
Similar to, yeah, I'm sure that's true.
Tiles held up against the original,
Yeah.
which is unbelievable. The tile would last that long.
But they were certainly typical. See, they didn't move in until 1906. So, that year.
They built this in 1906?
Well, they started building it in 1903. But as was common, in the summer, everything closed down in Tucson because it was so beastly hot. And everybody would go to California, including the workmen and the Corbetts themselves. And so work stopped in the summertime. But the most fun story is the piece of furniture in the dining room. Did they tell you about that?
Only that they couldn't take it out, so they left it there, that's all.
But they didn't tell you how it was
Come along.
Tell us.
Come along, we gotta look at that. You and I must have fallen on the same piece of glass. We have the same scar.
Mine was a golf club.
Oh, mine was a broken glass jar.
Let me give you a sticker, please.
There you go. Should I wait for more people to come? I'm going to tell you about it. Oh, okay. Okay.
Want to hear a true story?
Oh, are you ready?
I know this.
You do know this story. Nance Corbett was mayor of Tucson, postmaster of Tucson, drove the wagon down to Wymus and back and to Yuma and back. He was a very active man and had come, like Sam, seeking help. His health was poor. He lived in Sumter, South Carolina. And after he'd been here a while and wasn't getting much better, the local doctors, who perhaps weren't even doctors, gave him a purging, and by golly, he had worms, which was something that was very common then. And so he began to gain his health back about 1884. Well, when he was postmaster, a man with no legs came to the post office and said, I am an honest, hard-working man, and I lost my legs in a railroad accident, and no one will give me a job. I have a wife and 3 children I need to support. And my grandfather, typical of him, said, can you sit on a stool? And the man said, well, if you'll put me on it, I can sit on it all day. So Knox called over 2 friends and said, put this guy up on a stool and see if he can sort mail. Gave the man a job, and for many years he worked at the downtown post office on Broadway. The Corbett's, Lizzie and Knox, were building this house, and so the man kept asking him about the house and what it was like and who was doing the building and when they were going to move in. So anyway, they chatted about the house, and he said, do you mind if I make something for your new home? I'd really like to repay you for your kindness of giving me a job. And my grandfather said, well, that would be nice, you know, a little something. And so they went off to California, as was their wont every summer. And when they came back, Lizzie came to see how the house was going. And she sent a runner down to the lumberyard and said, tell Mr. Corbett to get back here in a big hurry. And they always called one another Mr. Corbett and Mrs. Corbett, so it is sort of amazing they had any children. Anyway, she said to him, Knox, there's a great big hole in the dining room. What is that? And the contractor was here, and he said, well, this fellow came by with a measurement and everything and said you'd given him the go-ahead to make a present for you. And about then, here came this man, no legs, 2 little boys, to help him unload this off of a world-drawn wagon. And it fit right in the hole. He had never made anything before in his life. That whole thing is pegged. There's not a nail in it. It is all pegged. And there used to be a little note there that said his name. And Knox, can you remember? I don't remember.
I don't remember his name, but it's off the top of my head.
Like
I'll probably
Jose
think about it 5
Lopez
minutes
or
from now when I
something.
go on.
And so anyway, he made his presentation to Mr. and Mrs. Corbett of his little gift. And I don't think he ever made another thing furniture. He finished that. He was exhausted. And it was certainly the nicest thank you note they ever got.
Oh, that's sweet.
And so it's one of a kind. And when my dad sold the house, and he said, well, what do you want? I said, the sideboard is the only thing I want. And I did the same thing when I built a home out on Sabino Creek and, you know, made a hole in the wall for it. And then my husband and I went traveling. So I gave it to the art museum, and they had to wait until they restored this building to take over it, the ownership again. But it's definitely permanent loan to the art museum because that's its home and that's where it lives. But anyway, that's the most interesting story about the furniture of the house. And that is original.
Is there anything else that you know of that's original in the home?
I had a large argument with the administration of the art museum, a very large argument. The furniture used to be Queen Anne mahogany with green leather seats. There were 12 chairs around the oval table. My mother needle-pointed 12 chair cushions, and all the furniture in the living room was mahogany. There was one big rocker for Jane Knox, and there was another armchair for Lizzie, and which they filled abundantly. And there was also a piano over in the corner, but there is nothing of the original period even. They would never have this kind of furniture in their homes. Yes, exactly.
This is Tucson.
And the mahogany was considered, you know, something very special. And for a lumber dealer, it was important that the floors and the furniture and the wainscoting and everything were the very best because he wanted to sell it to other residents of the community. Well, the man who bought the house was a lawyer whose fortunes turned down, and he sold it all over. And who knows where it is. go on the mahogany sideboard here. And then when she was sent a picture of this piece, she said, no, I won't release it.
How old were Knox and his wife when they moved in this house?
I must say that Christmas and Thanksgiving here were gorgeous, gorgeous affairs, because the table was extended all the way, and there were flowers and candles and 2 or 3 main courses, and even so the children had to eat in the other room. But it was really beautiful. It looked like, dare I say, Martha Stewart.
Many years prior.
Yes, right.
Ruthie, did you mention why I slept in the front room and Grandma Ruth slept all the way to the back?
No, yeah, Dad slept in the middle room.
Yeah, the
middle room. I slept in the front room. He snored like a Southern Pacific Railroad train. Just had a terrible snore. So, and Noxie spent a few nights with him, he knows.
That's why nobody traveled with him except me, I think. You couldn't sleep.
Oh, they're funny. But anyway, it was a fun family home, and we had a lot of happy times there. So, there are any other questions? I'll try.
Just give us one quick, okay, Atanasia and Lizzie, and then
Hiram and Hughley,
Corbett, and then you and Knox.
Noxie's father and I.
Oh, Knox's father and you. And then
Knox.
and you're Knox. Which Knox are you?
Third.
The third.
Myself.
And the fourth is in the pantry.
Okay.
There. I'm sorry, the pantry won't yield much.
Okay. And then they named their littlest one, their new one.
Hiram.
Not the fifth, but
No.
they.
No,
Hiram
Hiram
Stevens.
Stevens
Hiram
Corbett.
Stevens.
So he's named for my father.
Named for my grandfather, her father, I Corbett.
And my younger daughter took the Corbett name when she was divorced. So there are Corbett's from Prescott down to Tucson.
And Douglas.
And you're
And
in
Douglas.
Colorado now.
And I'm in Colorado.
What about
So, thank you so much for having an interest in the house.
Oh, thank you for showing us all of this.
It's one of special interest to several of us, and we were thrilled that they restored it.
Now, do you know that somewhere in the back, didn't Petra have an aviary, some kind of a...
Next door.
Next door?
Next
where-
door. And she didn't have an aviary.
What was it?
The birds just lived with her. She was called the Bird Lady of Tucson.
Oh.
And the birds just came to her and lived in her oleanders and in her olive trees. And they would fly in her house, and they would come back to her every spring when they had gone down to Mexico for the winter. They'd come back, and she just spoke to birds. And Barbara Stradling, Rick mentioned her. Yes, Barbara Murphy. She used to have to take care of the birds when Petra would go to California with the rest of the family. And Barbara was in college or high school, and she'd end up taking care of the birds whom she didn't like at all. But Petra loved birds, and they just lived.
And they
with
had
her.
no children, right? Petra and
No.
Hiram?
They adopted two, sort of. They took on the care of 2 children who ended up taking all of her money. And she lived on the largesse of Sam and Atanasia. And they supported her through her years. Her husband had a ranch next to the Treat and Tom Hughes and Stevens and Sam Hughes ranches near Fort Crittenden. And there was a terrible drought in oh dear, if this is a test question, I think I've missed it. 1884, más o menos. And Hiram Stevens had bought, against Sam's advice, thoroughbred cattle from Europe because he felt the Santa Gertrudis would do great things for the local cattle, the ones that lived here all the time, that had learned to get along in the dry weather. And so the drought came, and a runner came up from the ranches warning all the owners that the cows were dying and they had to track water or do something to keep them alive. And so Hiram sent to Nogales for diggers to dig the sand to try and find water under the sand. And there was nothing. The water level was way too low. So he ended up having to put down all these horses and cows that he had just imported from France and England. And that was his whole life savings. And when he came back to town, he was so despondent that he explained to Petra what had happened. And he said, "I'm sorry, but we must go, just like the cows went." And he shot her, and she fell to the ground unconscious. And then he put the pistol in his mouth and shot himself. She didn't die. She was knocked unconscious and had a concussion and lived for 25, 26 more years after that. He had an agonizing 2-week death and died of blood poisoning. And there's a write-up in one of the books about all the people who came to call on Hiram Stevens to say farewell. And it's really very, very touching. And but anyway, Petra was left with nothing. So Sam and Atanasia supported her for 25 years, or as long as she lived.
Did she ever remarry then?
No, she never did. She wore black the entire time.
Wow.
I didn't know her. I have no recollection. I just have stories. I remember Atanasia, and she was your size. And the reason she was so fair was she always wore a hat. And she used to call me Josefina because I was born on St. Joseph's Day. And she was very angry that my Protestant mother named me Ruth. But she always called me Josefina. And she'd say, "Your bonnet, where is your bonnet, Josefina? You will have freckles." And she always wore a hat. Always. And that she never got any sun on her face like we did. And
What was she like? What was her personality like?
very strong.
Atanasia.
She was very strong. She wore long dresses, long sleeves with little white trim on the end and long skirts to the ground. And I would frequently be dropped off there and spend the day with Grandmother Hughes. And she would be out there at 7 in the morning with a watering can, watering and sweeping the dirt in her back garden that was as hard as cement. I mean, you could play jacks on it, it was so hard. And true, she didn't wash dishes, but she sure told those 2 girls in the kitchen how to do it. And the meals were prepared her way by them. They did the manual labor. But Atanasia was a very, well, how could you have raised 15 children and not be kind of strong and positive? She ran that house. She kept the books for Sam. And if you wanted to know how many quarters of beef he had down in the butcher shop, you didn't ask him, you asked her.
Did she have women, servants helping
Oh,
raise
yes.
the children?
Um,
15 of them.
Well, I'm sure they did everything. They did the laundry and the mopping and all that.
What kind of parents were they?
Well, of course, I didn't know Sam. He died in 1918.
But so you didn't know them when the kids were growing up?
No. I knew some of the children as adults, as elderly adults. I knew Mary, the last one, the youngest.
Ann?
Yes, she was lovely. She lived to 102.
Yeah, we went to her 100.